Hello everyone, welcome back to Black Heaven, a necromantic dating sim. Let's go ahead and continue. You spend the next week holed up in your room, poring over everything you've learned over the past few months to prepare for your winter exams. From what you've heard, the winter exams for first-year initiates are how the academy thins the herd. There is no grading curve, and those who score less than 70 out of 100 points on any of the tests immediately fail. The exams cover a vast swath of anatomy, metaphysics, and basic surgery, with an in-person dissection and grafting session. It's all you can do just to get your head wrapped around the sheer breadth of the material. Finally, when the day comes, you stride into your classroom and sit down at one of the tables, where the exam booklet is waiting for you. You can smell the preservation fluid wafting through the air, as well as a sickly odor of the carcasses waiting for you the next room over. Alright, here we go. Seven hours later, you're striding across campus, heading back to your dorm. Your eyes are shut, your mind feels wrung out, and your body is absolutely drained. I did what I could. I just hope it's good enough. 2 hours after you'd finished your last exam, you're lying exhausted on your bed. It feels like your body has been drained of all its vitality, while your mind feels like it's somewhere between death and sleep. The feeble light of sunset has already drifted away, and now the cold is creeping in. You're too lazy to make a fire, so you start to crawl under the covers with your clothes still on. As you do, you hear something papery slip under the doorframe. With your last ounce of strength, you sit up and look toward the sound. It's an origami deer trotting across your floor. You watch it arrive at the edge of your quilt, which almost touches the floor. With some difficulty, it climbs the fabric and triumphantly stands underneath. You slowly, arduously unfold it and read the message inside. Part of you knows what it's going to be and dreads it. Hope you survive the exams. Me and some friends are going to the cock and ball. You have to come. I have something special planned. Meet me outside my dorm in half an hour. You look down at the beautiful signature. Please. You let your hand drop to the quilt and hold your face in your other hand. You haven't felt this terrible since that awful run with Izagi. You haven't slept, you haven't eaten enough, and now your room is freezing. Part of you is glad that Lise is inviting you to do things again, but another part of you is still uncertain where things stand with her. You have the feeling that Lise may not know either, but she'll probably play both sides until she decides, and that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You smile grimly to yourself as you realize Tenza is probably going to be there too. You never apologize for what you've done with his flask, and if there's alcohol involved, things could get ugly again. Plus, it would involve putting on boots and walking through the freezing cold to the bar to spend more time with Lisa's obnoxious friends. In your head, all the arithmetic adds up to one answer. No, no, no. You'd rather lie in bed and sleep off the post-exam hangover. You toss the unfolded letter onto your bedside table, pull the covers over your shoulders, and close your eyes. You're suddenly awoken by 4 knocks on your door. You open your eyes barely, blearily, and heave a sigh, expecting one of the maids. Come back later, please.
Uzo? You alive in there?
Who's there?
It's me, you dumbass. Get out of bed and come drinking with me.
You slowly sit up. Your face is contorted in a mixture of deep, painful exhaustion and disbelief. I can't, Liz. I feel like I'm dying.
You'd better not be. That's the opposite of what we're learning here, Uzo. Come on, open the door.
I'm not going out. It's too late. Sorry.
I came all the way here just to get you. Are you really not coming?
You can hear the pouty disappointment in her tone. You can imagine what her face looks like on the other side of the door. It's enough to stir what little strength you have left. You get out of bed slowly and walk to the door, unbolting the lock and pulling it open to reveal Liz.
He's alive! How you doing?
You stare back at her haggardly, trying to communicate the depth of your exhaustion with your gaze alone.
Oh, lighten up. We should be celebrating. We made it through our first semester of Itsan. Come on, we gotta go drinking. It'll warm me up.
I can't. I can barely keep my eyes open. I'm not in the mood to deal with your friends.
What if I told you that Tenza's going to be there, and he bet me that you would show up?
Well, he's gonna win.
And what if I told you that I bet a pretty large amount of money that you would show up?
You stare hard at Liz, who smiles nervously back at you.
Hey, it's not a cockfight. All you have to do is walk through the door and let everyone see you. Then you can leave. I swear, no fighting. If Tenza comes at you, I'll stop him myself.
You keep staring at Liz. How much did you bet?
Oh, about 100. If you walk with me to the bar, you get half of that. Easiest money if you've ever made, and you'd be doing me a huge favor. I'll pay you big time. I swear. Please do so. I don't usually beg, but I'm begging you.
She clasps her hands together as a pleading gives you a big, comically sad look. You remain stone-faced. Slowly, you lift her hand up, put it on her shoulder, and squeeze. You lean close to her face so she's staring straight into her dead-looking eyes. If I collapse on the street while we're walking to her back, just let me die there. It's kinder that way. 20 minutes later, you step through the door of the Cock and Bull and feel a wave of heat hit your body. Liz has her arm looped around yours, mostly to keep you from stumbling on the ice. The bar is filled with Itsan students, but when you glance around, you don't spot Tenza. So, does he have to see me, or... Liz interrupts you with a full-throated shout that cuts through the din of the bar.
Hey, everyone, guess who's here?
All that's turn to look at you, and before you can say anything, an ear-splitting cheer rips through the entire bar. In a flash, you and Liz are mobbed by dozens of people who nearly tackle Liz and begin slapping you on the back. Why the hell is everyone so excited?
Because everyone was betting.
To your surprise, you feel yourself being lifted off the ground and carried to the bar, where the crowd of your peers sits you on a stool. A large gem of shot glasses brimming with alcohol suddenly take up the entire counter in front of you. You try to laugh off the offer, but soon people start to lick glasses to your face, spilling some of the alcohol on your clothes. You take one glass and sip it, and then lift it up to show you drank. Another cheer goes up, and you set it back down. The crowd disperses a little. Elise hops onto the stool next to you. God damn, these people are insane.
They're drunk actually, and you just made some of them a lot of money.
How many bet against me?
About a third of the bar. Give you 2-to-1 odds.
2-to-1? Against me showing up?
Yep. Most people thought the rumors would scare you off.
What rumors? Can I go now?
Tenza beat up 2 other guys in the little one-on-one duels. Missed their faces.
Did you hear that? You feel something brush against your elbow. Turn around and look up to see who it is. Nice of you to drag your ass all the way here. Here's your money, Lise. Tenza raises his right hand over your head and lets a stream of coins trickle onto your head.
Oh, get fucked, you sore loser.
Tenza lets the last coin drop and turns away as Lise stoops down to pick up the coins from the floor. You glare at Tenza, then crouch down and help Lise pick up the coins. Where have I seen this before? Ah, that's what it was. You look like a pair of beggars rooting through the trash. You glance over at Lise, who rolls her eyes and sneers. You lean close to her, smile, and speak loud enough for Tenza to hear. Talks a lot of shit for someone who keeps losing bets, doesn't he? Lise grins back at you.
Can't buy charm with money, it's not much use to him anyway.
What did you say? Stand up and help Lise to her feet. She's got most of the coins cradled in the crook of her arm.
Oh, don't mind us, my lord. Just twitting with my fellow tramp. You be safe on your way home, then.
Oh, shut up. I'm sick of looking at both of you. Well, I think I'm gonna head out too. You can have all these. You gesture at the dozen or so shot glasses clustered on the bar and start to stand up.
Hold on a moment, restless traveler. You look like you haven't eaten or drank anything all day. Now that I've got some extra cash, how about I buy you something? Real food and drink, not booze and peanuts.
You sigh and sit back down, then rest your forehead on your hand. The bar is warm, and you're not looking forward to walking back to campus in the cold and the wind. One meal's not gonna square us for this, just so you know.
Of course not, this is just an act of goodwill. I'm not always trying to weasel you.
You order a plate of potatoes and skewered meat. As you wait, Lise counts up her remaining coins. She slides you half the stack and gives you a radiant grin.
Don't spend it all in one place. And don't blend booze or women. That's what my dad used to say to my brothers when he gave them allowance. Even when they were two young girls. That was funny.
Guessing he told you something different, judging by how much you drink.
I didn't get much allowance. My dad would say let the boys pay for you. And if you see a rich one, hold on to him for a while. He wasn't much for a romantic.
I'm starting to see it got to be the way you are. Lise looks at you with a mixture of shock and mock offense.
Excuse me? I'm a consummate romantic. Money means nothing to me.
Ah, bullshit. You dragged me out to this bar for money. You just gave me half.
Well, sometimes romantic needs some extra funds. Plus, I didn't want to miss out on a chance to embarrass Tenza.
So, I guess I'm just your toy, huh? Drag me out whenever you need me to spice up a night out. I should start charging you more if I'm gonna be a professional clown. You stare for a few seconds at the shelves of alcohol across from you. Wait for some kind of witty repartee or a playful slap from Lise, but nothing comes. You look over at her and see her looking into her drink, downcast. You okay?
You're not just a toy to me. I think of you as my friend, even if I'm not a good friend to you.
The seriousness of her tone takes you by surprise. You're so used to Lise playing coy that it's almost disturbing to hear her speak so earnestly. You slide close to her on your stool so it's harder for other people to eavesdrop. I know we're friends. Sometimes I feel like all you want to do is play games with me. Your friends, Tenzo? Even if it's just you and me, I don't know if... Your mind flashes back to Lisa's bare back, and her hand guiding yours across her skin. I don't know if you really want a friend, or just someone to keep you from getting bored or lonely, or whatever. Lise lifts up her head and strains her back, then turns toward you. Her eyes are intense, but not angry.
Wow. You got me deep there, Uzo.
She looks into your eyes for a few seconds before exhaling deeply through her nose. She looks down toward the bar, sees your hand resting on it, and puts her hand on top of yours.
It's a bad habit. I've had a lot of friends, but not a lot of good friends. I'm not very good at keeping them because
Lise tilts her head with her mouth still open, as if she's still searching for the right words.
I like to keep people at a distance. If we're all open and honest, I'd worry about spoiling it. Still, it's not fair for me to be like that. Because you're trying to be honest, like just now.
You flip your hand underneath Lisa's palm and take your fingers between your thumb and your curled forefinger. You watch yourself rub your thumb over her finger, acutely aware that Lisa's waiting for you to say something that will absolve her of the guilt she's feeling. A familiar stream of words trickles through your mind. Everyone's got things they don't like about themselves. I'm pessimistic, I'm cynical, and I always think everyone's got an ulterior motive. I really appreciate you being honest with me, but if you're telling the truth, then maybe we shouldn't be friends. Lise gently takes her hand away and props up her head on her elbow, sighing.
I know. It's just... I don't want to lose you. You're the closest thing to a real friend I have here, and I'm not just saying that to jerk you around. I swear.
Lise looks up at you through her strands of red hair and gives you a sad smile.
Is there any way we can start over? Or we can just forget what happened and start fresh?
You open your mouth to speak, but you're interrupted by a plate of food being slid in front of you. The potatoes are steaming hot, and the smell of butter and garlic hits you deep in your gut. Lise smiles at the bartender and starts to count out the coins for the meal. As she does, you take advantage of her distraction to think about the right angle to take. You try to remember the moment that you really seemed to catch Elisa's eye, back when you'd first met. It wasn't during the deer dissection. You're still acting like a clueless rube. It was during that first trip to the bar, when she come over to you and pretended to read your palm. You reach in your jacket and pull out a piece of paper, a page from your notebook filled with last-minute notes from your last exam. You fold it diagonally, then fold one of the edges and carefully rip it, so you're left with a square of paper. When Lise is done paying the bartender, you slide her the square of paper. Hey, do you know how to fold a paper lotus? Lise looks down at the paper and picks it up.
What?
We're starting over, right? Let's say we met at the bar, and I slid you this piece of paper, and I asked you to fold a paper lotus.
Okay. No, I don't know how to fold one.
You take back the piece of paper and start folding it the way Rue showed you. It's interesting. No one can fold a perfect paper lotus. All of them are flawed, but every one of them is flawed in a different way. In fact, you glance up at Lise, letting your fingers work on their own. She's looking at you with a confused smile, a little uncertain. You look back down at the paper. Some people think that you can read a person's soul in the flaws of their lotus. Because it's the flaws that make us who we are.
Well, that's kind of depressing.
Why?
You're saying that our flaws make us who we are. Kind of makes it pointless to try to change, doesn't it? What if I was hopelessly vain? Am I supposed to just live with that?
You frown to yourself and think for a second, still folding the petals one at a time. You ever try to change yourself? Be someone else?
Yeah, sure. Everyone has.
But no matter how hard you try, the old you bleeds back in, doesn't it? It's always at the back of your head. I tried to change who I was a few years ago, be, charming, gregarious. Lee smiles and raises both eyebrows, as if she can't believe it.
That's hard to imagine. How'd it go?
It went really well. I practiced it. Broke my old habits. Started looking at people in new ways. I even fell in love, which I didn't expect. Never saw myself falling for someone.
Oh really? What was she like?
Sweet, intelligent, polite. She wore little silver earrings in the shape of owls. Liked to talk about literature. She wouldn't have liked the old me, but I played my part pretty well.
So, how long did the charade last?
About a year.
Did you ever...
Lise makes a ring with her index finger and thumb and slides her other index finger through. You laugh, embarrassed. No. Kept putting it off. Lise tilts her head, curious. She tries to catch your eyes, but you keep them on the lotus.
Why?
It's easier to pretend when you're, in normal situations. I thought the old me would shine through if we... You trail off. Lise leans forward and rests her cheeks on her fist, looking down at the lotus.
So in the end, you never really changed. You're always still you.
Not quite. I was still me, solitary, pessimistic, all of that. But for a while, I let go of some of it. The old me never would have fallen in love. I was too cynical. Now I'm still cynical, but not about that. You finish folding the last petals of the paper lotus and unfold the center petals to reveal the inside of the lower. I think, the way I see it, we can always change. Some parts of us stick around. None of us are ever going to end up perfect. If we were perfect, nobody could sympathize with us. Lise chuckles a little.
I don't think I could stand someone if they were perfect. They'd be insufferable. Still, sir, this is a lot of heavy stuff to throw at someone you just met. I don't even know you, remember?
You smile despite yourself and tap your fingers on the lotus. Yeah, guess I messed that up. Well, screw it. What do you think, red-haired woman I've never met?
I'd say... It seems like you've thought a lot about this. Changing yourself, I mean. It's actually kind of refreshing to hear you say some stuff. I've spent a lot of time trying to avoid it. I like how your little story ended. The cynical, hard-hearted young Uzo learning to love.
You shrug and give her half a smile. You're relieved that you seem to be winning her over, at least. Seems like the right time to seal the deal. Well, if I can change, you can too. Lise gets a contemplative look. She picks up the lotus and looks at it, turning it over in her hands as she thinks.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I'll always be me. I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like that's not going away. But if I can get better at some things, then I'd be a lot happier with myself. You lift one of the shot glasses and give Lise another smile.
I believe in you. Lise smiles reluctantly and picks up another shot glass. She clinks it against yours and downs its shot, then grimaces.
Ooh, you gotta tell me two things though.
What?
Did you have that whole speech planned out ahead of time? Because it seems like you've been practicing.
An icy feeling spreads through her chest. Keep it under control. What? No, I didn't even know I was going to be talking to you tonight. Lise dips her head to the side, apparently satisfied with your answer.
Okay, sure. Second question, that girl you dated. When you were going and being fake Uzo, you said you fell in love, even though you didn't believe in love. What finally got you?
Got me?
When did you really know you were in love with her?
You go silent for a few seconds and stare at your plate of food, which has cooled off a little. When you look over at Lise, she's looking intently at you with a coy grin. You know, some things you just want to keep private.
Oh, come on, I have to know what melted your heart.
It wouldn't mean anything to you. It was a personal thing between us.
Are you embarrassed?
He slipped straight, indignant, and a little defiant. Maybe I'll tell you when I know you a little better. Lise scoffs and leaves her mouth hanging open. After a second, she shuts her mouth and narrows her eyes at you.
You are a true little boy, Uzo. I bared my soul for you tonight.
Yeah, that's true, and I did too. But I'm always telling you embarrassing things. If we're going to be good friends, there's gotta be some quid pro quo.
You want to hear an embarrassing story, huh? Do you want to hear about teenage heartbreaks? Because I've got 100 of those.
We think you for a few seconds. You haven't seen Lisa embarrassed by anything, except... There was that time when we were drinking in your room. We were saying things we'd never done, and I said that I never slept in the barn. Lisa puts both hands on the bar and bends forward, letting her head nearly hit the counter.
Oh god.
You said you grew up on a cattle ranch, so I thought I'd...
Can't believe you did that in front of all those people. They made fun of me so much.
So, it's a story. You slept in the barn, didn't you?
Oh, you don't want to hear that one. Trust me.
What, did you sleep with the pigs when you were a kid?
No, that would have been better.
What was it then? Lise covers her face with both hands and lets out a long exhale.
If I tell you, you can't tell anyone else.
Promise. Lise raises her face and takes a deep breath.
When I was 18, my parents hired a stable boy that got enamored with. His job was to take care of the horses, and horses were my favorite thing when I was that age. We ended up seeing a lot of each other, and he was just so shy. It was adorable. He could probably lift me over his head, but he was so gentle. My horse liked him more than me, and I raised that thing from when it was a little foal. Anyway, I was smitten. I was feeling rebellious and stupid, so I decided I was gonna have a little accident when I was out riding. So he didn't have to come save me, and... Well, long story short, we ended up in the hayloft of the barn. No clothes, and it was evening. We both smelled like horses, and it was very, very humid up there. And I thought it'd be fun to,
Lise hesitates, biting her lip.
Well, I had a riding crop. And I thought it'd be fun to, hit him with it on the butt, like a horse. Things went fine. I got my rocks off, he did too, and we fell asleep in the hayloft. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen servants yelling my name across the estate. All of them were looking for me because I wasn't there for breakfast, because I was an idiot. I tried to sneak out of the barn, but as soon as I came in the house, my mother caught me and said I smelled like horses. Didn't take her long for her to catch on. Anyway, that stable boy got fired and I forgot about the whole thing until one of the servant boys brought me to a closet and he showed me. He'd taken an old metal skirt cage, the kind you used to make dresses, and bent it so it was a cylinder. It looked like a piece of scaffolding with brown fabric wrapped around it. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but then I realized it had eyes and ears at the top.
So what was it supposed to be?
It's a big, fake horse head.
What? Why would he make that?
Well, he thought... Apparently rumors got about what happened to me and the stable boy with the crop. And he thought that I was secretly attracted to male horses. One attribute in particular, actually.
Oh god. What the hell did you say?
Nothing. I just destroyed that thing and walked away.
Well, that'd be scarred for life.
I'm still getting over it. Maybe if I drink enough, I'll blank it out.
You sit in silence for a while, shaking your head. Lee stares down at the bar, drawing circles on the wood with her finger. You still want to know what made me fall in love with that girl? Lee's mood suddenly brightens. She turns to you and smiles.
Yes!
She said she didn't want me to call her pet names. Sweetie, baby, things like that.
Why?
She hated sweet nothings. According to her, couples who acted all lovey-dovey never lasted. Because that feeling fades and so does the courtship. She wanted us to be honest and direct with each other.
So what'd you do?
I kissed her. Then I wrote her a letter and said we couldn't be together anymore. Lisa's eager smile fades. Her face becomes thoughtful and she takes a sip from her glass.
I think you did the right thing.
Over the next week, you watch hundreds of students migrate across campus quads, heading for the main gates. They're headed home for the holidays, but you have nowhere to go. You just wander around the rapidly emptying grounds, waiting for the letter with your exam results. After 6 agonizing days, it comes. You rip open the envelope and close your eyes. Your fingers still pull out the letter within, and you crack open an eye to look at it. Yes! 73 out of 100 is not a score to brag about, but you don't care, you passed. Ahead of you stretches a month of peaceful, cold quietude. It's on winter break. After the mind-wringing ordeal of the past semester, it's a welcome relief. You decide to take advantage of Itzan's vast libraries and delve into a couple of topics you've been wondering about for the last semester. Though heading to the library and surrounding yourself with books seems to like returning to the walls of prison at first, you now feel something new. Excitement. You start reading a few treatises on the game Seeker, spending hours learning about strategy and permutations. Soon you start coming across references to the Lotus Gambit. It's a gamble attempted only by masters of the game, but what catches your attention is how familiar it is. It involves handing your opponent a piece of paper before the match and asking them to fold it into an origami lotus. Based on the imperfections on the folds, a skilled observer could divine the folder's temperament and predict how they would play the game. Reminds you of your first meeting with Rue.
The idea is that when you fold a paper lotus, you will never perfectly line the folds, and each fold will have a ripple effect on the next fold. In the end, one flaw can change the outcome of the entire Lotus. If you know how, you can see or at least recognize a person by the flaws in their lotuses. Because those flaws reflect the individual soul, as expressed through their physical form.
After the lotus was full and read, the master would then blindfold himself and play the game. According to the text, if the master had truly read his opponent in the lotus, he would know their every move without seeing the board. And if he knew what they were going to do before they did, then the game was already won. After that, he tried to find more books in the Lotus Gambit, but the library has only one, a folio by some obscure secret master named Mina. The librarian is reluctant to let you have it, even if you promise to never take it from the library. Apparently, it's centuries old. The folio turns out to be exactly what you're looking for, a catalog of lotus patterns, each one slightly flawed. Every lotus comes with a description and little label diagrams showing how the slight imperfections reveal different archetypes of personality. There is the dismembered, the wanderer, the monarch, the weaver, and dozens of others. Each one has its own subtypes and variations, but you realize as you read that all of them are unhappy. At their best, the monarch archetype is confident, driven, arrogant, and hungry for recognition. At their worst, the monarch is cruel, petty, single-minded, and frightened. Each archetype has a flaw at their heart that drives all their desires and behavior, but even the same flaw can manifest itself in dozens of different ways. You flip the introduction and read the faded text, which is titled "In the Garden of Souls." One passage catches your attention. After 80 years of rereading lotuses, I have come to believe that no person is whole. All are, to one degree or another, anguished, deluded, or mad. It is ironic that the chief desire of life is purported to be peace and contentment, for I believe no living person is at peace with himself nor content with who they are. It is neither remarkable nor contentious to claim that the flaw in humanity stems not from our civilization nor from our forefathers, but from the soul itself. Even when perfected, the mind and body can only maintain that perfection for a short time, and in narrow areas, a single throw, a single composition of music. Some deficiency, inevitably drags the mind and body back to the state of chaos, this equilibrium and imperfection. It is my belief that that mysterious force for entropy is a soul. I cannot explain this. Instead, I have chosen to map it here, using these paper lotuses as a cruder tool. It's exactly what Rue said. In that moment, they would become perfect, at least in a sense. Maybe you could attain that for a moment, but eventually, you need to return to your normal, flawed state, like entropy. You spend hours poring over that folio. You take notes, copy what you can, and memorize what you can't. You start pulling out books on entropy and decay, then mathematical analyses of the body, geometric patterns and proportions. And you see a person's soul reflected in their flesh. You don't find the answers you're looking for, but you do find all the ways the body betrays the soul: cardiac failure, kidney failure, cancer, lymphoma. Something begins itching at the back of your skull, a half-realized thought that gnaws at you until you can't complete it. Spending all these hours studying with Rue had shown you that you could start wading into some of the deeper waters of physiognomy, especially the holistic approach to immortality that the Academy was so insistent on. Dealing with massive blood loss, broken bones, and dismemberment was all well-explored topics in physiognomatic treatises, especially hemorrhagic and cardiogenic shock. which usually come from bleeding. Physiomancers who studied physical augmentation all seemed concerned with surviving traumatic wounds and deadly blows, especially the advanced ones. Among those masters, the Crownless King was considered the height of the craft. According to what you read, the Crownless King was a person who could remove their own head without dying. The head would stay alive, could be reattached to the body after weeks or even years of being apart. Meanwhile, the body couldn't function normal. Following the commands of the head, the body's soul matrix would remain intact, even though the head and body were physically separated. So much of the physical augmentation was concerned with keeping the body alive, even when parts of it were compromised, like the master found a way to survive without a stomach or kidneys. It makes you wonder if there's a way for the body to function without blood. Of course, it seems silly when you say it out loud. Without blood, a person's body would have no way to nourish itself. The brain needed blood to function, as did the tissue and muscles. Without blood, decay and disease would set in because you'd be a living corpse. But while studying over the past semester, you come across an account of physiomancers from a few centuries ago who were trying to mummify themselves. This was before the art of immortality had advanced to its current heights, and the practice was still crude and experimental. Many practitioners realized that they were reaching the end of their lives and tried to squeeze out a few more years. They did this by slowly training their bodies to operate on less food, less sleep, and less water, because they had barely enough energy to stay alive. They closed their eyes and stopped moving except for their chests rising and falling as they breathed. In time, their organs would fail, which necessitated removing lungs, kidneys, and even intestines. At that point, the scholars were barely able to cling to life. These scholars would spend all their time thinking, silently working through the problems of physical immortality in their own heads. By this point, they already knew nearly everything written about flesh, blood, and bone, so they didn't need libraries. Finally, just before their deaths, each one of these scholars would open their eyes, which would be the signal for their apprentices to grab a blank book and a quill. From there, the master would use their last breaths to dictate everything they had been pondering for the last 5 or even 10 years, and then they would die. Sometimes they would only be able to blurt out a few sentences before they died, and a few only managed to string of words. Even though it was morbid, it made you chuckle a little. All of these ancient sages gasping out their knowledge as the death closed in, hoping desperately that their apprentices weren't asleep when the time came. The thing that sparked your imagination, however, was something that those old sages could have never known. Their blood was killing them. As soon as they began removing their organs, especially the kidneys, their blood became weaker and weaker, which made the rest of their tissue decay faster. Even if they trained their bodies and avoid cancers, their blood would undermine them. It could be a clot, a lack of nutrition, or an overflow of poisons from waste in the body. The blood was the key. They decided to do some research. What could be a substitute for blood? Was there some substance that could sustain a partly mummified body, even if you removed most of its organs? What were the absolute boundaries of survival? A week later, the answer comes at your desk. You're shirtless, unwashed, and half asleep, poring over the diagram of a circulatory system. You've been exploring the effects of embalming fluid on the body, and had discovered that almost certain fluids could preserve the body from decay, and always render the body immobile. Looking over the diagram, the blood vessels looked like 1,000 tiny strings, all attached to different organs and tissues of the body. A single word flashes through your head: puppet. Physiomancers who studied artificial vessels at Itzon had already tackled the problem of how to make mobile matter move, but they had always assumed the matter involved was inorganic. If you could find a way to use magic and a system of wires to puppet a preserved corpse with a functioning heart and brain, you could hollow out the rest of the body. All that was needed was a good substitute for blood, and several physiomancers had already discovered a few alternatives. The most promising was the sap of a mysterious tree, which was more viscous than blood, but just as good at nourishing tissue. If provided with enough water, its own arts of regeneration could be used to generate more of that sap inside the body, ensuring a steady supply of nutrients. The brain could be kept alive with minimal nourishment, along with the same sense of hearing. Touch, taste, smell, and sight would be lost with the tissue, but locomotion could be achieved. Instead of migrating the soul to an immortal vessel, the smallest mistake at unanchoring the soul from the body could ruin a person's mind. The puppet body could be an immortal vessel. The body's soul matrix would remain intact, and though the host would be delicate, they could be kept alive. For a moment, imagine what it would be like to inhabit a body like that. Blind, unable to feel the world around you, a hollow shell that's only human in shape. It wasn't elegant, but it proved that a person could live without their organs, without blood. Apart from that, there was some shining kernel in the idea, a new combination of artificial vessels, regeneration, and physical augmentation. You decided to show Rue your ideas. For now, though, you need rest. The next day, you carefully arrange all your notes and diagrams on Rue's floor as she watches over your shoulder. Finally, you're ready. Both of you kneel over the papers and you walk her through your idea, pausing every now and then to answer one of her interjections like, "Where did you find this?" and "Who said that?" To your relief, she seems just satisfied by your answers. When you're finished, she sits down, props her elbows on her desk, and rests her head on her palms, apparently running through everything in her mind.
I've heard of someone trying to do something like this, but only to allow a person with spinal injuries to move. They didn't go as far as you did with preserving the body and everything.
Rue trails off and keeps her head resting on her hands. You watch her for almost half a minute, waiting for her final judgment. Finally, she raises her head and gives you a smile.
I wouldn't use the phrase puppeteering a corpse in your official write-up, but I think the rest holds up. It's a combination of magical and mechanical locomotion. And a novel solution to preserving the body-soul matrix within the body that has no need for respiration, digestion, or waste elimination. Very intriguing.
She seems to think for a moment, then chuckles.
This is not my forte, but I'm actually quite interested in seeing what comes of your research.
My research? I just thought I'd pass the idea to someone else. Can't do half the stuff I wrote about, not right now. All I wanted to know is whether it was possible.
Oh, you can't let someone else take your idea? Even if you can't carry out the work yourself, you should present it to a panel of scholars here so you can get credit. Once you do that, they can waive some of your classes so you can focus on your work. They might even provide you with an assistant in the workshop once you're ready.
I don't think they'll do that. I barely completed one semester here. Don't I have to finish my courses of study first?
I didn't. I never finished my courses on artificial vessels, actually. I was so good at flesh regeneration they let me focus on that. You can do it too.
But you were actually talented and smart. I barely made it through my winter exams.
It took me a long time to realize this. Exams don't always show how capable or talented someone is. Things like this.
She gestures to the papers on the floor.
Do. You've already been helping me in my flesh regeneration work. That's a lot of heavy, difficult mathematics. I'm starting to expect you may be a polymath.
Ah, now you're just flattering me.
I don't think so. Let's distill all this into an essay and I'll arrange a presentation in a week or two. We can work on it together.